Evelyn stands at the single window of her cramped apartment, the early morning haze casting a pallid glow over stacks of ledgers, battered folders, and a worn satchel spread across her desk. She methodically sorts through her notes, extracting only the essentials: a coded list of charity addresses, a slim camera, her old ministry access card, and a battered notebook. She changes out of her formal ministry attire into a threadbare coat and scarf, pinning her hair beneath a cap to draw less attention. From her window, she watches the city's streets below, cobblestone alleys where steam curls from sewer grates, and distant shouts echo from an unseen demonstration. Each address on her list sits in a different quadrant of Atheros, most in districts she's only heard about in cautionary tales. She traces her route with a trembling finger, calculating which alleys to avoid, which tram lines to risk. Her heart races as she tucks away a slip of parchment with a ciphered emergency contact, her only backup. Evelyn slips her satchel over her shoulder, pausing at the door to listen for movement in the stairwell. Satisfied, she steps out, locking the door behind her, every sense sharpened. The city's air is thick with coal smoke and the promise of rain. She keeps her head down, weaving into the growing crowds and glancing over her shoulder at every intersection. As she enters the first district, she tightens her grip on her satchel. Her breath clouds in the air as she approaches the first charity address, her nerves taut, aware that every step away from the ministry's marble corridors is a step deeper into peril. Navigating through a warren of narrow lanes, Evelyn keeps her head down as she approaches the first charity address. The neighbourhood is dense with cracked tenements, laundry strung overhead, and the spatter of rain on broken stone. She rounds a corner and is immediately confronted by a knot of teenagers sprawled across the stoop of a dilapidated shop. Their eyes narrow as they see her, an obvious outsider. One steps forward, blocking her path, demanding to know her purpose in a voice that is both curious and threatening. Evelyn feigns a look of confusion and clutches her satchel tighter, stammering that she's searching for a cousin's address. The group exchanges glances. One spits on the ground, another tugs at her sleeve. But she keeps moving, offering nervous apologies, making herself small. The tension breaks as an elderly man shouts at the youths from a window above, drawing their attention. Evelyn seizes the moment, slipping past and ducking into a shadowed entryway. Her heart hammers in her chest as she steadies herself, double-checking the number scratched into the doorframe across the street. The building is her target, boarded up, its windows smashed and its sign faded and half-burned. She takes a slow breath, forces herself to calm, and steps out to begin her documentation, glancing back to ensure she is not followed. Evelyn stands before the first charity site, her shoes squelching in the puddles forming along the curb. The building's facade is a testament to neglect. Windows are shattered, glass crunching beneath her boot as she circles for a better angle. The faded sign above, once painted with hopeful script, is now blackened by fire, the name barely legible. She raises her camera and snaps several careful photographs, framing the extent of the decay and the ministry registration plate bolted to the door. She jots details in her notebook: burn marks, broken locks, the absence of any institutional signage beyond the charred remnants. A gust of wind slams a loose board against the frame, startling her. She debates forcing entry, but decides against it. The risk of drawing attention is too great, especially in a district where every window hides watching eyes. Evelyn backs away, pausing to scan for movement or signs of surveillance. She tucks the camera back into her coat, adding a coded mark to her ledger, her first tangible proof that the charity is fraudulent and non-functional. The street is eerily quiet, save for distant shouting and the drip of water from a leaking gutter. With a final glance at the ruin, she turns and moves briskly toward the next address, suspicion mounting with every step. The second charity address brings Evelyn deeper into the city's neglected heart. She finds the building slouched between two gutted storefronts, its door ajar, graffiti scrawled across the stone. Pushing inside, she is met by the stench of mildew and rot. Light filters through holes in the roof, illuminating piles of trash and a makeshift nest of blankets where squatters must have slept. She steps carefully, boots crunching over broken tile, alert for any movement. The reception desk is overturned, the charity's nameplate missing. Files and papers are long gone, cabinets pried open and emptied. She inspects the walls for ministry notices or inspection stamps, but finds only peeling paint and a calendar faded to last year. Her fingers brush over the warped remains of a ledger, but it disintegrates at her touch. She notes evidence of recent habitation, discarded food tins, a singed candle stub. No sign of official activity, no indication that the building has housed any legitimate operation in years. Evelyn retreats, quietly, making a final notation. 2 charities, both abandoned and lifeless. She exits into the street, blinking at the sudden grey light, and scans for someone, anyone, who might remember what this place once was. Outside, Evelyn scans the cracked pavement and weathered storefronts, seeking someone who might know the history of the derelict charity. She spots a small grocery with a battered awning and steps inside, greeted by the must of dried herbs and sawdust. The shopkeeper, a wiry man with a cautious gaze, eyes her warily as she inquires about the charity's fate. Before he can answer, Evelyn senses a prickle at the back of her neck. Across the street, under the shadow of a half-collapsed archway, stands a figure in a low-brimmed hat, face obscured, unmoving. The shopkeeper glances nervously past her shoulder and mumbles that nobody uses that building anymore, that it's been empty since the fires. Evelyn stiffens, feeling the weight of the stranger's attention. She thanks the shopkeeper, quickly, and as she exits, commits the watcher's silhouette to memory. The stance, the hat, the way a gloved hand lingers at a coat button. The air outside feels charged with threat. She ducks into a narrow alley, heart pounding, resisting the urge to look back. Every step is measured, every turn calculated to lose any tail, as she disappears deeper into the city's maze. Emerging from the alley, Evelyn makes her way to a public records kiosk tucked beneath a soot-stained arch. She scans the old directories, searching for any mention of the charities, but finds the index gutted, key pages torn out. Frustrated, she switches tactics, consulting her memory and the coded lists she smuggled from Edmund's files. She sketches a map in her notebook, marking the locations she's visited and overlaying them with known sites of recent disappearances reported in the ministry's own rumour files. The pattern is unmistakable. Each so-called charity sits at the heart of a neighbourhood where the unregistered and the desperate have vanished. She recalls whispered warnings from clerks about Market Row and the eastern districts, places where people disappear and no one asks questions. Stepping back from the kiosk, she sees the city anew, the network of fraud and tragedy stretching like a web across Atheros. She pockets her notes, determination settling over her. She heads into Market Row, its alleys teeming with uncertainty, intent on finding someone who can give her more than rumours and silence. Pushing through the throng of Market Row, Evelyn scans faces, searching for anyone who lingers at the fringes, those who look hungry, wary, or desperate. Most turn away or mutter refusals when she asks about the missing. One elderly woman hurries off at her approach, eyes wide with fear. But at an open-air food stall, Evelyn notices a gaunt young woman watching the line with hollow eyes. Evelyn orders a bowl of soup, gesturing for an extra portion, and quietly offers it to the woman, inviting her to sit. The woman hesitates, glancing around, but hunger wins out. Over steaming broth, Evelyn gently asks about disappearances. After a moment, the woman leans in and whispers she saw government wagons, painted with the ministry's sigil, arrive at dawn, promising food and work to those sleeping rough. People climbed aboard, hopeful, and never returned. The woman describes the uniforms, the official tone, the way the wagons came regularly, always before sunrise. Evelyn presses for details, noting the time, the markings, and the faces of those who left. As the woman finishes her soup, she warns Evelyn to be careful. People who ask too many questions tend to vanish themselves. Evelyn thanks her, tucking the details into her coded ledger, and slips away, heart pounding, toward the nearest abandoned charity site. At the third address, Evelyn finds the building's door hanging from its hinges, the interior gutted by fire and time. She hesitates, scanning for squatters or patrols, then slips inside. The air is thick with damp and smoke. Carefully picking her way over charred beams and collapsed plaster, she shines her pocket torch along the walls, searching for any remnant of official activity. In a corner, wedged beneath a pile of broken chairs, she spots a flash of colour. Kneeling, she retrieves a crumpled pamphlet. Bold ministry insignia, the words "Work Relocation Programme" stamped across the cover. She flips through it, recognising phrases from the transfer logs: guaranteed shelter, productive employment, official sponsorship. The pamphlet is dated within the last year and bears the same crimson seal as the funds in her ledgers. Her pulse quickens as she photographs every page, documenting the matching symbols. Coughing from the dust, she tucks the pamphlet into her satchel. The floor creaks ominously, spurring her to backtrack quickly out into the street. She pauses to compare the pamphlet to her notes, the pieces of the conspiracy clicking into place. With one last glance at the ruined site, she hurries away, determined to prove the connection. In a shadowed alley off Market Row, Evelyn ducks behind a stack of crates, pulling out her battered folder. She lays out the pamphlet, her coded ledger, and Edmund's cipher notes, cross-referencing charity names with the cryptic symbols scrawled in the margins. Her breath clouds in the chill air as she traces connections, piecing together the network of payments and false fronts. But when she reaches for a crucial cipher page, the one marked with a block of symbols and a date circled in faded ink, she finds only a jagged tear. The page is missing. Panic prickles at her scalp. She rifles through her notes, checks every pocket, but it's gone. She recalls the moment she was jostled in the crowd, the uneasy feeling that her satchel was lighter. Someone has tampered with her materials. Her mind races. Who could have taken it? The watcher in the hat? An opportunistic thief? She snaps the folder shut, hyper-aware of every sound in the alley. Her sense of safety is shattered. With the cipher incomplete, Her investigation is at risk. She decides she can't work alone anymore. Quickly gathering her evidence, she heads for the nearest crowded market, seeking anonymity and, perhaps, help. The market is a cacophony of voices and clattering stalls, but Evelyn moves like a ghost at its edge, searching every face. She spots a familiar figure, her ministry colleague, eyes darting, hands shoved deep in pockets. They edge through the throng, never meeting eyes for more than a second. At a crowded produce stand, the colleague sidles up, pressing a folded slip of paper into her hand. His voice is barely a whisper. "They know you're looking. Directorate's watching. Be careful." He refuses to answer her questions, shaking his head, and melts back into the crowd like smoke. Evelyn tucks the note into her sleeve, not daring to read it here. She feels exposed, every vendor and shopper a potential informant. The warning is clear. Her audit has drawn official scrutiny. The Directorate, the city's secretive enforcers, are now aware of her investigation. The stakes have escalated. Evelyn blends deeper into the market, her mind racing with contingency plans. She can't stop now. Too much is at risk. Instead, she makes her way toward the edges of the market, searching for more witnesses, each step more cautious than the last. Evelyn finds a narrow alley sheltered from the main street, where two men and a woman gather around a brazier for warmth. She introduces herself as a ministry clerk conducting a welfare survey, voice steady despite her pounding heart. The group is wary, but after a moment, the older man begins to talk, describing the government wagons, the officials' clipped promises, the way neighbours disappeared in groups. The woman adds that children too were taken, some from the old mill, some from Market Row itself. Evelyn discreetly starts an audio recorder, capturing their words. But before the man can finish, the stomp of boots and the harsh beam of a patrol lantern slices through the gloom. A security patrol rounds the corner, voices barking orders. The witnesses scatter, melting into the shadows. Evelyn ducks behind a pile of crates, clutching her satchel, heart racing. The patrol sweeps the alley, flashlight passing inches from her face, but she remains motionless until they move on. Only when the silence returns does she dare to breathe. She checks her recorder, intact, evidence preserved. Shaken but emboldened, she slips out of the alley, her proof now irrefutable. The ministry is complicit, and she has the testimonies to prove it. Back in the safety of her apartment, Evelyn bolts the door and draws the curtains tight. She strips off her disguise, revealing sweat-soaked clothes beneath, and lays her satchel on her desk, with trembling hands. She pulls out the audio recorder, the pamphlet, and her battered folder, arranging them on the blotter. With a practiced hand, she encodes the new testimonies into her ciphered ledger, cross-referencing names and locations, ensuring that even if her notes are found, the meaning remains hidden. She tries to log into the ministry's data terminal, but access is denied. Her clearance has been further restricted. Frustration and fear bubble up, but she pushes them aside. As she cleans up, her foot brushes against an envelope slipped under her door. Inside, a single slip of paper reads, "Stop or disappear." The threat is explicit and unmistakable. Evelyn burns the note, then hides her evidence beneath the floorboard, hands steady now. She drafts a coded message to her suspected ally, heart resolute. The city outside is restless, sirens echoing in the distance. Evelyn stares at her encoded notes, jaw set. No matter the threat, she will press on. This is only the beginning.